Good morning, dear friends and colleagues. This is early hours, about 7:30 in the morning, and I'm reporting live from New York City, Central Park. And you can see all around me a lot of fancy buildings, the so-called Billionaires Row, and some other great places to be. And right behind me now, you can see that's a corner of Central Park. And so basically I'm chilling out here with you. I'm trying to combine this video together with a little short morning run to feel fresh and cool. So yeah, and there's quite a lot of background noise. There's a bit of wind and there's a lot of cars because Manhattan never sleeps, which makes sense because this is the center of capital, the center of money, more or less. And so that's what I wanted to talk about today. Pretty much, that's the topic of today. Because for the last, I'd say, for quite a long time, but very intensely, for the last 2 months or so, I've with my business partner and my colleagues and team, we've been involved very actively in raising capital for the business, and that's a whole skill set which needs to be developed in order to do that successfully. So I just wanted to share some thoughts on that one because it's really something that it's on my mind 24/7 lately, and it's not an easy thing. So raising capital. So there's obviously various forms of how you can raise capital. From friends and family, from high net worth individuals, from banks, different types of institutions, and so on. So I suppose what I will be talking about is in a specific context, and the context is more or less venture capital, institutional funding, not bank loans, but let's say venture capital. And my business is technology/consumer lending. So. It's a B2C context, and obviously, if you're raising capital for a different type of business from different types of investors, the whole experience is going to be very different. Now, I just wanted to kind of make that note before I talk about this. And so yeah, it's one of those things that require a specific skill set. Let's put it that way. I think I'm just going to stand up and walk a little because sitting is quite boring, so that you can see the whole thing. So yeah, it requires specific skill set, and the skill set is there's various steps in the whole classic fundraising process. One step is developing very appealing and attractive pitch materials, or basically information materials about your company that you either send out or you when you meet investors, then you give them the information. And actually behind me, just to say, on the other corner of Central Park, you can see this chocolate-looking building. That's a Trump Tower. There's many Trump Towers, but that's one of them. I don't believe that actually it's Donald Trump's tower, but he just lends the name. Anyway, that's a side note. So with venture capital, there's various steps. The first step is just to get the information out there to a VC, and so that requires ability to develop very interesting and appealing presentation materials, business plan materials, and so on. And then once hopefully you have captured the attention of a VC, which is already a big step. Then there are normally either conference calls or face-to-face meetings, and that is a whole different set of skills that I need to develop in order to be successful in those meetings. And then after that, you have hopefully you have a term sheet, which is basically a non-binding contract which lists out terms and conditions at which the potential deal can happen. Upon successful completion of, legal checks or so-called due diligence, and upon successful, basically, completion of the deal. And negotiating a term sheet, understanding the various specific terms and conditions and clauses and risks and opportunities for both the investor and for the entrepreneur is a whole other set of skills and knowledge that you need to have in order to execute a successful term sheet as an entrepreneur. And of course, I'm talking more from a perspective of an entrepreneur who's raising money rather than the investor. So every step requires a different approach, a different skill set, and then finally, after a successful due diligence where your company is checked, back and forth and very thoroughly, what you do is you sign a shareholder agreement. And just wanted to say, if you see on my right-hand side, there's Apple Store, the very iconic Apple Store, which is always crowded. It's all good. Anyway, so yeah, after all the stuff is done, you need to do something that's called. That's right. Yeah, these massive buses are passing by. Something that's called shareholders agreement, which basically is a full contract, which talks about all the terms and all the responsibilities and so on when it comes to the actual investment. So, and what I wanted to share a little bit is the actual face-to-face pitch meetings. So that's where you go in, you actually meet investors or representatives of an investment fund. They most likely have looked at some of your data so they have a slight idea about who you are and what your company does, but not really to an extent that they're ready to make a decision. So the face-to-face pitch meeting, that's where you have an opportunity to really tip their confidence into going further and researching your company fully in order to make an investment decision. And so these face-to-face meetings, they're pretty interesting, pretty cool, because obviously there's a lot of human interaction. Let me just run across the street. So I'll just walk nearby this super cool building, if you can see over here, right? If you have a few tens of millions or a few hundred million, you can definitely buy an apartment here. So let me check it out and see if they've got anything for me. I'm just kidding. So these face-to-face meetings, that's where a lot of interaction happens, and so those are interesting meetings, because there's a few things you have to really nail down extremely well if you want to make a success out of these meetings, because you're given a very short window of sometimes half an hour, sometimes an hour, normally an hour, in order to convince investors and sell them confidence and sell them certainty, so that they move on with your company. And they, their job is not to look for opportunities to say yes. Their job is really to look for opportunities to say no. And that's why they're, hanging onto every possible risk, every possible problem in what you're saying and in your business plan. So, it's kind of, it's quite a lot of grilling, if you like, and you have to be ready for that. So, in order to be ready for a pitch meeting, and I've done, I'd say, quite a lot of meetings, definitely over 100 meetings like that. So I've got a little bit of experience. I'm far from an expert, but I've got a little bit of experience, and so there's a few things you really have to nail down. So one thing is you have to have a very kind of, let's say like a textbook type of elevator pitch approach to the overview of your company, and what's commonly not expected, but let's say I get a textbook kind of classic example of a great description of your business is that you describe, instead of starting with your company, you just describe like a big, massive problem, which is a big opportunity, and how that has impacted you personally. And so from there, you basically say that you have come up with a solution to this massive problem that is actually a big commercial opportunity. And that's how you set up the company, because this massive problem has impacted you and affected you personally, and now you know how to deal with it, and you can make money out of it also. So that's the kind of ideal context, but not always necessary that you have to do it that way. But that is really a useful format in which to introduce the company. And then you have to go and very specifically talk about the main kind of KPIs, main achievements of your business that you have achieved so far, like sales, volume, growth, things like that. Maybe if there's any profitability, or if you've developed a prototype of any sort. And it really depends obviously on the type of business. If it's a B2B, then it might be a client contract. If it's a B2C, then it might be hopefully some kind of transactions with clients and so on. And it obviously depends at what stage you are raising capital, whether that's seed round, where you're just trying to get some money to get the business going, or if it's a Series A, where you have a proven, hopefully, business model and you just need extra money to keep growing it, or Series B when it's already more mature and so on. And so that's kind of one part. Then when you describe the business in easy, simple to understand terms, to basically in layman terms, then what you have to do, and that's pretty much going to be the focus of your, let me just go somewhere else, because this is a nice place, but let me move on. The focus of the conversation will probably be around competitive advantages, or unique selling points, or however the hell you call them. And that's basically where you need to convince and make sure that it is clear to the investor that you have something that other companies in your space do not have. And that can be whatever the secret sauce is. It can be your marketing, it can be your IT, it can be your some other special practices, something that really sets you apart, that lets you sell your product or service at a lower cost, or it's more appealing, or the user experience is 10 times better, or whatever it is. At the end of the day, that's what you really need to sell, because really your investors are most likely in a position where they have looked at a similar company or business model, and all they care about is saying no, and you just have to really convince them otherwise. And the only pretty much way to do that is if you show that you have something unique, potentially a unique team, and so that's gonna be a very big factor in the success of such a meeting. So prepare a very solid argumentation around your competitive advantages, and not only in general terms, but in very specific terms, like where you measure that in numbers, in financials, so that it is quantifiable and sounds believable, plausible, confident, reassuring, and so on and so forth. And so, and then it's just about how confident you are about the market, about your business, and so on. And I'm using all these buzzwords: confidence, certainty, and so on. And that's for a reason, because at the end of the day, the one thing I've learned for sure, and it depends on the geography in which you're raising capital, because that's also a factor that plays a role. And hold on, let me just see. My recording is still happening. That's pleasing. So it depends on the geography as well. But most likely, what often happens, and that's very funny, is that, let me just go somewhere more quiet. What happens is that investors just want to see a great, well, not a great show, but they want to see, they're buying you, they're investing in you as much as the idea. And this is a very cliche thing anywhere you research about, pitching and selling a business and selling a business idea. It's always good, everyone will always say that, but really you just have to kind of take it to the next level. You need to be like, you need to, it's almost like a theater, it's almost a show. It's like, you go out there, you perform, you present, you sell confidence, you sell certainty to investors. You use specific words like unique, competitive advantage, and a lot of other words, just to, better than anything else, 10 times better, unparalleled, and so on and so forth, just to make sure that it sounds special, and it sounds like a big opportunity. And so the attention you will pay to wording and the expression of your wording and emphasis is going to be pretty massive. So sorry about the background noise. We're going into some scaffoldings over here, doing some big ass construction over here. Yep. And just walk through. I just walked around the block, basically. You can see the building. You see my little apartment building over here again. So yeah, as I was saying, it's really as much about selling confidence through very well thought through wording, emphasis, and so on, and posture, and kind of aggressive approach in a positive way, aggressive approach, as much as about the actual fundamentals of your business. And that's like 50-50 split, right? If you're going to go with a great business and it's a complete shit pitch performance, then it ain't going to fly. And also a reservation I wanted to make is that this really depends on, again, where you stand in the spectrum of negotiation power as an entrepreneur. And what it means is that, if you have your next Facebook on your hands and your growth is just like freaking insane, and you don't really, give a shit other than just, getting money to buy server space, then probably you're not going to have to worry fuck all about anything that I'm saying, right? But unless you're so super fortunate, which you probably won't be, then you're going to have to really sell yourself and your business pretty heavily in order to raise capital. So really, I'm talking about the 90% of cases where it takes effort to raise money, and it's not like all the investors are jumping to invest in you. And that might be the case. I'm really wishing for you that happens, but hasn't happened in my experience, at least so far. And so yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to say. And the most, this is all good, but this is something that you can, of course, this information you can get anywhere in any YouTube video about fundraising and talking to VCs and what have you. My personal experience around all this is that it's extremely exhausting. It's very exhausting because you get no's all the time. It's a bit like going to job. The perfect analogy is like going to a job interview, and you oftentimes, or most of the times, you just get no, right? Again, that's my experience. And by the way, I hope you appreciate my t-shirt. Yeah? See what it says? Yeah, it's what I was going to say. So it's a bit like a job interview. It's very exhausting. You have to be just ready to do it all over again, and be better every time, even though there's rejection. But you're not a fucking entrepreneur if you can't deal with rejection, that's for sure. And what else is important for me? As I said, I've done it quite a few times, and I will try to put together a video where I'm actually filming pitch meetings, in my own business, where myself and my business partner Davis, where we pitch stuff, and I'll put together that kind of thing so that there's some walking the walk, not only talking from my side. Shit, there's so many people, and there's nothing glamorous about it. The only glamorous thing is that you can maybe, hopefully, go to places like New York and some other cool spots around the world, but even that gets a bit tiring after a while because it's just a shitty hotel somewhere and you're just spending all your day in these meetings. Now, that's what the reality is. It takes a lot for me. It took, quite a while, a year or even more than a year to actually develop the confidence, the abilities to really sell your company, like, specific points, you're ready for all the questions and so on and so forth, because and when you learn how to answer different types of questions, you might think that you know how to do it just intuitively, but oftentimes it actually requires an engineered, sort of approach. At least, again, that's my experience. So yeah, so there's and it's tiring and frustrating. Those are the two words that come to my mind when I'm thinking about fundraising. Not fun or something cool or whatever. So yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to share today. I'll be back with some more stuff. As I said, we'll put together a video of where we're actually pitching. It's a bit of a, it's a bit difficult when it comes to the, what's the name? When it comes to confidentiality, because obviously you can't really show, who you're talking to in terms of VCs and stuff, because it's a very confidential process. But still, that's a pretty cool thing to see all the mistakes, all the tough questions, all the kind of dry mouth situations which happen. So I'll try to put that out there also. And now let me say thanks for listening, and I'll be back to you soon. Like I said, with some more content, and I'm just trying to find the route now to go for a run. You can see the little, not the little, but you can see the yellow cabs, little yellow taxis of New York over here. So that's pretty much that. Thanks for listening. Coming back to you soon. Peace out.